Okay, so this is a short revise with me video about trigonometry. You will need a calculator if you're going to try these questions for yourself. So press pause and go and grab one. A scientific calculator or your mobile phone calculator turned sideways so that you can see sine, cos and tan. Every question that we look at, you're going to have two choices to make. Are you finding a side or are you finding an angle? So to start off on this one, because I'm trying to find the length of BC, I'm going to be finding the length of this side here. So I'm going to label it with X to help me with my thinking. So step one, you need to label your triangle with opposite, hypotenuse and adjacent. So the hypotenuse is always opposite the right angle. The opposite is always opposite the angle they've given you. And the adjacent is then the third side. You've got to look at SOHCAHTOA. And you've got to decide whether it's going to be sine, cos or tan. So as I look at my question, I can see that I know nothing about the hypotenuse. I've got O and A. So this is a tan question. So the first thing I do is I write down the tan identity with just the basics and no numbers in place. Tan is opposite over adjacent. That one on the top, this one on the bottom, they're in the right order. And then I put all my information into the little equation and then I get ready to put it into the calculator. So tan of the angle, tan 36, is equal to the opposite number, which we've called X, divided by the adjacent number, which would be 8.7. This isn't ready to go into the calculator because we are dividing by an 8.7. So the opposite of dividing by an 8.7 is to multiply by an 8.7, and my final line will be 8.7 multiplied by tan 36, and then I grab my calculator. That's going to give me my X answer. So on my calculator, 8.7 multiply tan 36, and I get an answer of 6.32. It says 3 significant figures, and that's exactly what I've got, 6.32. I ignored all the other digits. So in this one, we were finding the length of a side. Fast forward to the fourth question if you're looking for an angle, because the next three are going to be similar to this one. So question 2, you're looking for a side again. This time we've already got it labelled here with an X. So we're trying to find the opposite. The 32 would be the hypotenuse. And I don't know anything about the adjacent, but there it is across the bottom. So I'll cross it out because I don't know anything about it. And when I think about SOHCAHTOA, the OH combination is here with sine. So basic version, sine equals opposite over hypotenuse. The right version now with all the numbers in, sine 60 degrees is equal to the length of the opposite divided by the length of the hypotenuse. That's not ready to go into the calculator because of the divide by 32. The opposite is multiplied by 32. So I'm going to have 32 multiplied by sine 60 to give me X. And I'll type it straight in. 32 multiply sine 60. And that comes up as 27.71. 27.71281 keeps going, but because it says 3 significant figures, my cutoff is after 3 digits, so 27.7 centimeters long. Question 1 and question 2 are pretty similar. The only difference that has happened is there's a different key on my calculator. So you've got to just pay attention to labeling, picking the correct sine, cos or tan, putting the numbers in, and then getting it ready for the calculator by removing any of the divide bys, or if the X is the angle, as you'll see later, removing the sine, cos or tan. Third question, press stop, see if you can label it. Okay, so the 43 would be opposite PQ, so that would be the opposite. 5.8 would be the height because that's the longest side, so the adjacent is the side across the bottom. I don't actually know anything about the adjacent, so I'm going to cross it out. Then when I think of sine, cos and tan, SOHCAHTOA, TOA, I know I'm using sine. Write it down without any values in place, just so that you've got the correct layout, and then put the numbers in. Sine of angle 43 is equal to the opposite, doesn't have a label, so I'm going to call it PQ, divided by the hypotenuse of 5.8. What's stopping us from having the PQ is going to be the 5.8, which is a divider. So if I multiply by 5.8, it's moved to the other side, and I'm ready to find the length of PQ. So I grab my calculator, 5.8 multiplied by the sine of 43, and that's going to give me 3.9559, and it carries on. I'm allowed to have 3 digits, 3 significant figures, so I'm going to have 3.9, this 5 is going to make me round up, 3.96 meters. That was also finding the length of a side. Now as I look at question 4, there is an obvious change of direction. And question 4 is finding an angle. I know this because I can clearly see that's the unknown, that's where the x is. So what do I do differently? Well, to start off with, I label the sides. O for opposite, H for hypotenuse, A for adjacent. Second step, I cross out the one that doesn't help me. Seeing I've got O and A, I think of the word SOHCAHTOA, and I can see that I'm going to be using tan because that's where O and A come together. So I'm going to write tan down in its basic format, and then I'm going to put the numbers in the right place. So tan of the angle x, is equal to the opposite number, 5, over the adjacent number, 12.5. And you're really not in control as to whether the big number's on the top or the big number's on the bottom. You've just got to make sure that whatever order they're written here, opposite on the top, opposite on the top, adjacent on the bottom, adjacent on the bottom. Because you can't say it's always going to be the big number on the bottom, sometimes it's on the top. This isn't ready for the calculator, but this time the divide by 12.5 isn't the problem. The problem is this tan here. On your calculator, if you look just above the tan key, you'll see written in gold the phrase tan to the minus 1. Tan to the minus 1 is the inverse function, the opposite function of tan, and as I move the tan away from the x, it will become tan to the minus 1 on the other side. There's nothing wrong with that fraction, so the tan becomes tan to the minus 1, and now it's ready for the calculator. To get tan to the minus 1 to come up on your calculator, you're going to need to press the shift key first to access the gold functions, and then press the tan key. And after you've done that, the display will show you tan to the minus 1. So shift, tan, the fraction needs to be put in so that you can put the 5 on the top and the 12.5 on the bottom, or you can use division. The choice is yours, but you should have 21.8014, and it carries on. Because we're allowed 1 decimal place this time, that's going to be 21.8 degrees, because this time we've worked out the angle. Question 5, press pause and have a go. Can you label it? Can you decide whether it's sine, cos or tan? And can you get it ready for the calculator? Okay, here goes. So my labelling will start with the opposite, the hypotenuse, and the adjacent. The opposite is useless, so this time I'm looking at car from the SOHCAHTOA. This tells me I've got cos, the adjacent is on the top, and the hypotenuse is on the bottom. They are in the order top and bottom. Putting in my numbers, I'm going to have cos of angle x, equal to the adjacent number of 6.4 over the hypotenuse number of 9.6. What's stopping x from being on its own is the cos. The opposite of cos is cos to the minus 1. Then I'll put that fraction into my calculator because that's calculator ready. Shift cos, 6.4 divide 9.6. And that's going to come out as 48.1896. I'm allowed 1 decimal place, which means my cutoff point is here. So my final choice for my angle is 48.2 degrees. Question 6. Finding an angle again. Label it. Opposite. Hypotenuse. Adjacent. Opposite is no good. A and H belong to cos. Cos is the adjacent on the top, hypotenuse underneath. Put in your information. Cos of the angle is equal to the adjacent divided by the hypotenuse. To get rid of the cos, you're going to need to use cos to the minus 1. Cos to the minus 1, 3.9 divided by 4.7. So I grab my calculator. 3.9 divided by 4.7. Cos to the minus 1 of 3.9 divided by 4.7 gives me 33.9, well, 33.9231. So with my cutoff at 1 decimal place, it is 33.9 degrees. Okay, last question, question 7. In question 7, for the last time, I'm going to show you finding the angle. Press pause and see if you can do it. Okay, here we go. Opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse, no good. Tan, because I recognise a TOA question. Opposite on the top, adjacent underneath. Tan of the angle x equals 4.5 over 12. To get x on its own, tan has to move, becomes tan to the minus 1, 4.5 divided by 12. Shift tan on the calculator, 4.5 divided by 12 comes out as being 20.55604 ... I'm only allowed 1 decimal place, so here's my cutoff. 20 point, that's going to make me go up 20.6 degrees. This will be in the mock on Friday, and if there are any other things on the revision list that you'd like a short video about, you're running out of time to ask. Thank you, Year 11.